Thank you for joining me today on the Moms Who Know podcast, the podcast for moms who know that when they take care of themselves, they can take better care of everyone else. Today's episode is one I'm excited to share with you because it's so unique. We are going to talk to a mom and a stepmom who were married, are currently married and were married to the same man and yet are able to get along, to co-parent their kids. They wrote a book together. They are working together for the benefit of their kids. And I think there's so much to learn from them and the way that they've navigated this tricky situation. So I'm excited to share these guests with you today. Hello and welcome to the Moms Who Know podcast. I'm your host, Chanel Nielsen, and today we are joined by Erin Gipford and Tina Gipford. I'm excited about introducing you to them because they are very unique. They are a mom and a stepmom to the same children who get along, who wrote a book together, and who are going to talk about co-parenting. And so the author of their book is called Stepmom, a dual memoir, how we navigated divorce, remarriage, and co-parenting with the same goal, happy children. And at this point in the podcast, a lot of people approach me to be on the show, and I really have to turn down so many, which is sad because there's so many good ones. But this topic excited me because I know so many people are navigating divorce. And one of the great tragedies in divorce is the kids. And what moms really worry about is, will my kids be okay? And so I think this is a story of hope for people to be able to hear about how to navigate this in a way that will benefit the kids. So to start off, I would love to hear a little bit. First, tell us a little bit about who you each are and kind of the situation and how you came together.
Ooh, that's a good place to start. This is Erin. I am the mom, the bio mom, and I married my high school sweetheart, the father of my children, just out of high school. We met when we were 13 and got married just shortly after high school. And we had 2 kids. And then we got divorced when we were both just about, I think we were 26. So it was not a fun divorce. It was not an amicable divorce. We pretty much hated each other to the core when we got divorced for many different reasons. But I knew right from the beginning that, anyone who goes through divorce has the guilt. You think we failed and these 2 little kids don't need to feel any of the brunt of this. And I think I just made that my goal very early on to rid myself of some of the guilt. So it wasn't long after we got divorced. Did we determine 4 months or so? 4 or 5 months after we separated, yeah, that my ex-husband met Tina. And here's Tina.
Hi, I am Tina, the stepmom, / I am a mom too. We have 5 children together. So Sean and I met in May of 2006 and have been together ever since. I came into the relationship with a daughter. He came into the relationship with a daughter and a son. Later on, we had 2 children of our own, which is all laid out in the book. If you want a good read or funny, there is quite a few stories in there that I think that'll make you chuckle. So we've been together for a little over 13 years now, and we have been navigating this co-parenting journey with Erin, which doesn't always start off really great, but we have learned to work through every obstacle together.
Okay, so this is intriguing already because I kind of had in my mind, I have not yet read the book, and so I kind of thought, well, this must have been one of those amicable divorces, like, I like you, we just can't live together, the kind of thing that you hear. I am really intrigued to know that Erin's like, okay, this was not a good divorce. This was not a happy divorce. And then so soon for her ex-husband to meet Tina, I would imagine all kind of fireworks. Was it smooth sailing right from the beginning?
Well, no. I mean, of course, we're all human, and I'm sure that we all I know that I experienced every spectrum of emotion, but I guess where I chose differently was I did not want that to affect my children. So whether you say that I just stuffed things down or just decided to look at the bigger picture, it just it had to be that way. I didn't want my anger or my resentment to be on my kids' shoulders for any reason. So I did whatever I could to make this thing work. So
Yeah. Okay. And how about you, Tina, coming in on the other end to, getting into a relationship with a man who was so recently divorced? Were you open to, things being good with Erin right from the get-go?
I think I tried my hardest. I had no desire to meet her at the beginning, of course, because you hear the stories and you're like, oh my God, she's really going to think I am a piece of work for falling in love with her ex-husband so quickly. So I pushed it off as long as possible. Let's just put it that way.
which I have to say actually ended up being a good thing. Like, she did not try to bust her way in. She didn't try to befriend me right off the bat. She was very timid and quiet. And it just kind of gave us both time to just get used to it. Like, I knew she was there, but I didn't know who she was. And it let us both kind of process.
Okay. That's good. That's awesome. Now, I have to ask, I know he's not here to ask him your husband and ex-husband, but how did he feel about all this? Because was it scary for him when you guys started to talk?
I don't think he was scared. I didn't hide anything from him. I would always tell him what we would talk about, or I feel like me and Erin's relationship was probably better than Sean and Erin's relationship. Yes. Because
okay,
they just butted heads. So I think Erin would text me and I would text her because I need answers, and I hate playing, oh, can you ask, can you do this? And you know what? I'm just going to do it myself. It's just much easier that way. I get right to the point, figure things out. I'm the one that deals with the kids anyways. I am a stay-at-home mom and I do daycare. So I was home with the kids all the time.
Okay. So that's awesome. It sounds easy on this end, the way that you guys are describing it. And I know it cannot be easy. Let's talk a little bit about, I think what I'm hearing is, you had this goal that the focus was on the kids, that you wanted it to be good for the kids. And so you kind of put some of your own feelings aside. What are some of the challenges in this journey of co-parenting?
Go ahead, Tina.
Yeah, I was just going to say the biggest challenge is two separate homes. You know as well as I do, kids will, if you allow them, they'll play one house against the other. So having somewhat the same rules and discipline in both houses was a huge benefit for us. If something was going on at our house, it carried over to Erin's house and vice versa. She would call us if there was a problem. We would handle it on our end as well, because I think being on the same page and uniting as one front is what has gotten us through the teenage years, the awkward years. So I think that is the biggest challenge. And I think most people find that in their relationship as well. The co-parenting team needs to be a co-parenting team. it can't be one-sided.
No.
Yeah. So give me an example of kind of what that looks like
good.
in practice.
Because I have a prime example from very early on, and it might sound little and frivolous, but when after Sean and Tina started living together, and the kids we had switched to a week to week schedule, and so it came up at the dinner table one night when I was just talking, asking them, how's it going at your dad's? And, how are you getting along with Tina? And my daughter, who was probably 6 at the time, she's like, oh, I don't know if I like Tina. And I'm like, oh, why? Looking for like every dirt, looking for the dirt, looking for a reason to dislike this woman. And April proceeded to say, well, Mom, she makes us eat all of our vegetables. And I just started laughing, and I thought, like, instantly, oh my gosh, I don't even serve vegetables. I better serve, like I better make sure that there's vegetables at every meal because Tina makes them eat their vegetables, and I want to compare to that, and I'm worthless because I don't, we don't have vegetables all the time. And so it's like that was my first realization that I can't be comparing myself to this woman, or it's going to be detrimental to everyone. So yeah, we have to like put our little insecurities aside. So
Yeah, okay, that's such an interesting example to me because I feel like, well, for one thing, I love vegetables. So I'm glad whenever vegetables get in the conversation, I get excited anyways. But also I just think it's so interesting because I think that could have really gone the other way.
Right.
I think it could have really gone like, haha, Tina, yeah, she's the mean stepmom. I'm going to give you ice cream for dinner. She makes you eat vegetables, but here, have a brownie. I think that would have been so easy, and yet you chose the higher road there and the healthier road, and went that way, recognizing that your kids didn't like it.
Right. Yep.
So how did you do that? That's hard to do.
It's just it's taken me 13 years and writing a book to really put this into perspective, but there's so many times where, and that was a prime example, that I feel like Tina was like placed in our life strategically because she picks up in places that I lack. And there's lots of instances of this in the book, but, and just like you said, those instances could have totally been turned the wrong way. Or looked at in a different perspective. And for some reason, I just like automatically looked at them as a blessing, which turned out well for everyone. But I don't know if that's necessarily the common perspective. So
yeah, I really think it's necessarily not like that is the opposite. Yeah. Okay, so that's exciting. I love what's coming through here is just that you're making a choice over and over. Okay, I'm going to choose what's better for my kids. I'm going to see the good in what Tina is doing and bring that into our family. Now, have you guys, even within a married couple, there are differences in parenting. What kind of differences have you guys come up that you've had to negotiate between the two houses, and how have you worked through that?
Gosh, good question.
We just had something recently, and I had one of them aha moments.
This is Tina talking.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm a pretty big stickler on grades. I want them to, not that I think that everybody has to come across as A students, more based on what I think the child's ability is. And if they're slacking in areas that I think that they can do well in, then I kind of push. So we had this incident with one of the kids. And the grade, we always had this rule. You had to have, your grades had to be a certain point, or no car, no phone type thing. And Erin and I kind of just batted around a few things. And I was like, okay, not going to do this. We're not going to take the car away. We're just going to, from now on, we're going to intervene earlier before it gets to this point, if that makes sense. So it was just kind of one of them, like, okay, I can't always be right. It can't always be my way.
Yeah, I guess what it came down to was my daughter came to me just completely stressed out over this grade that and this class that she was on the brink of failing. And it's not an easy class. It's what was it? Calculus?
Pre-calc.
Pre-calc,
Yeah.
which I didn't even take in high school. And like, April, you have to not. It's okay. It's okay that you don't, get an A in this class. Just as long as I know that you're trying and you're, whatever, not slacking. And she's like, but Dad and Tina said I'm going to get my car taken away. And
And what it boiled down to is that she needed extra help,
Yeah.
but wasn't seeking that help. So I'm like, okay, let's figure out where the problem is. Yes, it's a hard class, but you have to stay on your toes. And I kind of pre-warned her because my daughter had taken it the quarter before. So what ended up happening is I put the two together, and it was one of them, okay, this really worked out well, because my daughter was able to help her where she was struggling and went in and took the test. And it didn't get up to where we wanted it to be, but I knew that she gave it her best. So I was willing to say, okay, we'll put this rule aside, but next year we're going to intervene if it needs to be earlier. And just kind of went over with her that if you're struggling, it's okay to ask for help. Yeah. And if the teachers aren't giving you the help that you need, which sometimes is the issue, let's figure it out together as a family.
Yeah. And I love that togetherness, that it is, everyone together, all the parents. Okay, what needs to happen here? How can we help? And not pitted against each other. So that's powerful. Now, I'd love to hear some tips that you guys have. And I'd love to hear from both perspectives of how families navigating this situation can do better for their kids. So both from the mom perspective and from the stepmom perspective.
Do you want me to go first?
You can go first if you want.
Okay. I feel like after obviously 13 years of experience and a lot of reflection since writing the book, if I had advice for anyone, be it a mom or a stepmom, is to work on yourself and focus on yourself instead of everything around you and the people around you. Because what I have learned is that people come into our lives to teach us things. And if we're triggered by someone, it's because there's something that's not been dealt with inside of us. Like, I feel like a lot of moms and stepmoms trigger each other because it triggers really deep, like, insecurity issues and things that have happened from our past. And they're there to, like, show us, like, hey, this is a problem. And since we can't fix other people, we could look at ourselves and how we can do things differently. So I don't know. That might be too big. Maybe you were looking for, like, be nice and be grateful. But I mean, in what I have learned, that is the end all be all, and what has helped me the most. What can I do?
Yeah, and I don't think that's too big at all, because what it really is getting at the heart of the issue. There might be other, outside factors that play into that. And then you're treating it's like when you go to the doctor and something's wrong and they don't exactly know what the problem is, but they give you a pill for the symptom, but they haven't treated what's wrong. And what I hear you saying is, here's how you treat what's actually wrong. It's not just going to treat the symptoms, it's going to erase the symptoms, because you're actually getting rid of that core what's happening. And when that happens, then you don't have those symptoms anymore.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Tina, how about from the stepmom perspective?
My biggest thing has always been think of the kids first. Put all your insecurities away and just think about these tiny little humans that have to deal with two separate homes. Try to keep yourself in check. No bad mouthing. No, even if you're angry with the other spouse for something, don't do it in front of the kids. Don't argue in front of them. And do what's best for them, not for yourself, not for your ex-husband, but for them. Think about put yourself in their shoes for a little while and see how things, if what you are feeling is sadness, then don't do it. Don't pin that child against their father or their mother. They didn't ask for it.
Yeah. Okay, so powerful. I love these ideas and how parents can really do better. To finish off, I would just love to have you think back to, how things were um, before you really came together, and things that you have learned about yourself along this journey now as you've written a book together, as you have, because that's a big deal. That's a lot of interaction. That's beyond just, being civil to each other at drop off or, pick up kids. It's next level. So I'd love to hear some things that you've learned about yourself as a parent, as a woman, just things that have come to you as you've done this.
Gosh, there's so much.
Yeah, I was going to say, where do you begin? Well, and this is Tina. My first thing is we're all human. Erin has feelings. Try not to step on her toes because you're invading, even though you don't probably feel this way, but you are invading her life, her everything. So try to put yourself in her shoes as a mom. How would you feel if another woman was coming in and taking over with your children? Give her the space that she needs. Let her breathe before you attack.
I remember reading, this is Erin, I remember reading a post on Instagram once, and it really struck me because it was a stepmom asking for advice. Her and her significant other husband had just, and it was the way she stated it. She said, we just told biomom that we have full custody, and we just told biomom that we're switching schools, the kids to a different school. And of course, the mom just blew up and was going to take them to court and all this stuff. And there's all this ranting and, from everybody in the comments. And I think I chose not to engage, but the first thing that popped into my mind was the word told. They told mom that this is what was happening. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's one thing Sean and Tina have never done is just made a decision without including me. It's always, hey, this is what we're thinking. What do you think? And I kind of have taken that for granted, I think, until I read that. And I thought, they would never do that to me. So I can see why that mom was triggered and wanted to put her foot down and say no, because she was completely, left out of such a major decision. So yeah, anyway, that just happened to pop into my mind. There's so many things respect, human decency. Yes. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this has been such an interesting conversation to me with really ripples of application, because I'm married to my husband and not in a stepmom blended family kind of situation. And yet these are principles that you have talked about today. And these are things that we can apply to all of our relationships. So much good stuff here. Where can people go to read the book?
Well, our book is for sale on Amazon, but it's probably easier than, instead of sifting through all the amazing books on Amazon, if you would like to go directly to our website, which is Gipford Moms, GIPFORD moms.com, that will tell you everything about our journey and has a really quick, easy link to the book, as well as we are on Facebook and Instagram as Gipford Moms. So shoot us a message, connect with us. We would love to, just connect, I guess.
Awesome. Well, I will link to that. And thank you both so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, we have loved learning from you. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Moms Who Know. I think for me, the biggest thing that I took from this conversation is that there's hope. There's hope for even the trickiest of situations, the trickiest of relationships in your life. And to really work on yourself, to recognize that other people are going through a hard time. Those are kind of the messages that stood out to me. The question that I have for you for our discussion this week comes from something that Erin said, and she said, people come into our lives to teach us something. And so my question for you is this: who has come into your life to teach you something? And I want to hear your stories. Who is it that has come into your life for that purpose, that you can recognize they were here at this time in my life so that I could learn something? I would love to hear it on Facebook or Instagram. You can join me at Moms Who Know Podcast or talk to a friend. I heard from a listener who said that she and her daughter like to talk about the discussion questions and talk about the podcast. And that's so awesome. When we talk about it, we reinforce what we're learning, we apply it to ourselves, and then these podcasts go beyond just, oh, that was an interesting story, to something that makes a difference in our lives. And that is powerful. So I hope that you will either share with me or share with a friend the things that you have learned. Let us know who has come into your life to teach you something, and we'll see you next week on Moms Who Know.